So good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Talent Finders would like to welcome entrepreneur and CEO of Gales Gas Bars, Jessica Friesen. So welcome, Jessica.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So Jessica, I'd like to congratulate you on all your achievements. Please, can you share with our audience how your entrepreneurial journey started?
Sure. So I am the third generation owner operator of a 52-year-old petroleum company in the Niagara region in Canada. Yeah. And I started, as any family company, I started working here when I was small, very small. Just a toddler running around while my dad was working. Yeah. When I graduated from high school, I wanted to establish myself as my own person and do my own thing. And I went away to university and I became a registered nurse. And I practiced as a registered nurse for several years until the birth of my children. And I always kind of worked within the company, as a second or a third job even, just helping out the family. After the birth of my son, I suffered from significant postpartum depression for the first 6 months. So when my daughter was born a couple of years later, I had kind of reached out to those close to me and said, if there's anything that you see, kind of certain triggers, get me out of the house, get me moving. And my dad, at that point in time, it was the height of the recession in late 2008, early 2009. Yeah. And he purchased 2 new convenience stores. And we had, as a company, had never ventured into convenience stores before. We were strictly gasoline stations. So he called me up one day and said, do you want to help out? I know that you want to get out of the house. And, I'm looking for somebody that can liaise with the new suppliers and build relationships there. And that's really how it started with me coming back into the company. I kind of got the entrepreneurial bug at that point. I just loved coming in and building something from the ground up, being in charge of a division of the company and really putting my mark on it. And it just went from there. Within 6 years of that, I took over as owner operator of the company, and I never really looked back. Once I was invested at that point, I never went back to nursing. I don't think I ever would have. I think as an entrepreneur, you have a passion to solve those challenges and build whatever business it is that you've chosen to do. And that was me. I caught it and I wasn't giving it up.
Amazing, absolutely amazing. So you obviously are a very passionate entrepreneur with 15 years of customer excellence. This is what it's about and stems from great leadership. So I want to touch on leadership or the lack of leadership. What would you say makes your leadership style unique?
I think that goes back to my early days as an RN. I was in the public system at that point, the regional healthcare system here. I was part of a large team. Yeah. I had to balance, dozens of different tasks every day. I had patients that I had to respond to. I had their families. I had doctors. I had the full multidisciplinary team that I had to respond to. So you had to know how to manage your time, how to prioritize, and how to make sure that everyone felt that their needs had been seen to. And yeah. I go back to that on a daily basis. I think I'm a very team-oriented leader. Yeah. At least I hope that's what my team would say. Yeah. At the end of the day, it is my decision, and I make the big decisions. But I try as much as possible to get everyone's input and make the most educated decision possible. Right from, I try to surround myself with people that are smarter than me, so that they can advise me accordingly. And I try to really include the individuals that are going to be affected by the decision that I'm making, and get their input into what they feel is best, whether or not they realize that they are assisting me to make that decision. Sometimes I'm not always clear on that. I'm just looking for their opinion on something. But, I try to be a very collaborative leader, I suppose I should say.
Absolutely. And it also sounds like you're a good listener. So I think that's also important in leadership, right?
I try to. I mean, it's not always perfect, but I really do try my best.
Yes. So as we're in the middle of a global pandemic, so what would you say have some of your biggest lessons and learnings been, being in the gas business? And what would you say you are learning, and how are you adapting an incredibly tough market at the moment?
Well, with the pandemic, you never know what you're walking into every day. Every day is changing. I'm constantly watching the news. Justin Trudeau is putting out press releases or conferences daily. So is Doug Ford, who's our provincial premier. So I try to stay really on the cusp of what they are saying. I've always thought of ourselves as a very nimble organization. We don't have a lot of layers of management. We can make decisions very quickly, and if a change is needed, then we do it. But, with the pandemic and with all the changes globally that have been happening, it has taught us to be even more flexible and even more nimble. Being able to roll with the punches and make the best decisions with the information that's available at the time is key. One thing I'm very proud of is if I make a wrong decision, and we all do, I don't beat myself up over it. No. I've always said that I accept mistakes when I make them, so long as they're what I felt was best at the moment in time that I made the decision with the information that I had. If I proceed with a decision that I don't necessarily agree with, but I'm listening to someone else, that really upsets me. I've learned over the years to just trust myself, go with my gut. And you know what, at the end of the day, like I said, even if it's the wrong decision, it was the right decision at the moment in time with everything that I had been provided. So I know why I made that decision.
Absolutely. So you've had a very diverse career, which started off in healthcare, as you mentioned in the beginning, profession, and then you moved into the family gas and oil business. Which could not be more different. So how did working as a nurse and working in the healthcare system help you in your transition to becoming an entrepreneur and CEO of an independent, original, third generation owner? Just serving in the Niagara region within your business. So how was it different, or was it an easy transition for you?
No, it wasn't an easy transition. I had worked, I had never worked retail before. I had never, as sad as it is, when I came in, I didn't know what a credit term was. I mean, I understood the concept, but I had never heard it referred to in that term. So right off the bat, I had to take a lot of time. I took a lot of classes through the local college and online and, wherever I could to educate myself so that I understood base terminology with business. And I'm very lucky to have had my father and to have had colleagues that were willing to step out and lend a hand, and I have some absolutely amazing mentors that have just guided me through this whole procession. On the surface of things, it doesn't appear that business and nursing are in any way related, but the nursing taught me like I said, it taught me how to balance. It taught me how to multitask. It taught me how to stay cool in very, very stressful situations. You know, when you have someone's life on the line, I can't think of anything that's more stressful than that. And a lot of times, very early in my career, I actually would go back to that statement itself and say, Jess, you know what, no matter what you have gone through or how bad this day was, nobody's dying over
No,
what you did. You
no.
don't have to wake up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and wonder, you know, if you had done everything that you possibly could for that patient.
Yes.
So it's just different. It's I don't think that any previous career could have set me up better to run a company of this size with this many people
Yes.
than being a nurse. And I know that that sounds odd, but it's just, nurses are absolutely phenomenal people. And if I can do just a really quick shout out to all of the frontline workers in the world right now with the pandemic and everything that they're doing, but especially to the nurses, because my heart is with you guys.
Yes.
It's absolutely phenomenal. I know what you guys are going through. But you know, it's on the surface they don't look like they're the same, but I think at the base end of at the very roots of everything, it's customer service.
Yes.
It's doing your best for every person that you come in contact with. And now my customers include you know, I have 100 staff members,
Yes.
all of their families. All of my decisions are based around my staff and my customers. And I consider them all customers.
Yes.
It's my decisions affect hundreds of people. And I am very aware of that with every decision that I make, whether it's a huge one or a very minute one. I want to do what's best for them. And I think that nursing and nurses, you know, it's a profession that could set you up for success in whatever you do, because being able to make those fast decisions in high stress environments.
Yes.
I mean, how can you get set up wrong?
No, exactly. And you have to be able to change it, adapt it, literally the click of a button. So
Absolutely. You know, you never know what's happening. You could have a patient that you think is totally fine, and 5 minutes later they're coding.
yes.
You know, things don't move that fast around here, although these days sometimes it feels like it.
Yes.
But you know, it's all about perspective. And because I have that nursing perspective, I think that here I'm able to better do my job because of what I did previously.
Yes, absolutely. And also, I guess, in a way, even though it's difficult to, it's difficult not to get emotionally attached to people, but it does teach you empathy as well.
Absolutely. And you know, that's a really good point, Karen. You know, it was very difficult because some patients were there for a very long time, and you get attached, and if something happens to them, or when they leave, you're happy for them, but you know, there is that little bit of sadness that they're gone. And at the same time, that's what I see in my role day to day here. You know, at the end of the day, I can never forget that I am the boss. As friendly as I can be with all of my staff, at the end of the day, I'm the one that, you know, if paychecks don't go through, all of a sudden we're not going to be friends.
Yes.
So, you know, it's friendly, it's respectful.
Yeah.
But you know, you have to keep that distance to a degree, because I have to make the hard decisions that sometimes people aren't going to like what I do. Right now, there's probably a lot of people that aren't liking what I do, but I always have to keep the end goal in sight. And right now with the pandemic, the end goal is making sure that Gales is still here when this is all over, and making sure that all of our sites are open. And that we are there to service our customers, and that we can be here for another 53 years.
Absolutely.
So if it means sacrificing small things along the way, then that's what has to happen.
Yes, absolutely. So what would you say some of your biggest career highlights have been?
That's a good question. So I'm going to go with two specific things and then one that's not so specific. So
Okay.
August 2nd, 2014 is the day that I took over ownership of the company from my father.
Yes.
So I think that would definitely have to be one of them.
Yeah.
I remember going over to one of my best friend's houses the night before, and I was just this little bundle of nerves and anxiety and, oh my goodness, what have I done?
Yeah.
It was a huge risk, and the amount of trust that my father was putting in me was absolutely breathtaking. I think it all of a sudden hit me all in one moment. We'd been gearing up for it for months, years.
Yeah.
Me leaving a career to come here and take that risk and really step out and give up my pension and give up my benefits and give up everything was a big deal. But at the same time, I think an unconscious part of me always had a little bit of an escape clause.
Yeah.
I could go back to nursing if I absolutely wanted to or had to, but on that day, legal takeover meant there was no going back. There was no turning around. And it meant that I was officially 100% invested, which I consciously always had been. But I think there was a sneaking little bit of me in the back of my mind that always held out a little bit. So that was big. Number two, I'm going to have to go with my 5-year anniversary. So August 2nd of 2019. And that was one that I was very, very cognizant of as it was approaching and what it meant for me and what it meant for the company. Most startups fail within 5 years, and most companies never see the third generation, or the third generation usually tanks it, putting it very frankly. I'd succeeded in both, and the company was flourishing. I was very, very proud, and I was older, I was wiser. I was more aware of just how much trust my father had actually put into me 5 years previously, because until you really have ownership of something that's as big as this, and you have, like I said, those hundreds of people that are looking at you for guidance and putting their trust in you, putting their families in your hands, I don't think you really have an appreciation for what business owners go through on a day-to-day basis. We have to deal with, the really hard decisions that sometimes the decisions don't make sense to everyone. And people look at you and think, you don't know what you're doing, or, wow, that's crazy. That's a real big risk. I don't get it. I don't know if I would have done that. But at the end of the day, you're the only one that knows the full story. I'm the only one that knows the full story of everything that's going on here. So there just has to be that amount of trust and respect. And I'm very proud that I feel my team has that trust and respect in me. I certainly do in them. I have a fantastic team that I've built over the last almost 6 years now. And I think that everyone in the company and throughout the community, you can feel that ripple. When someone is doing a good job with their company, and you hear things, right? So I think I've done a decent job with that, and that really speaks loudly to me, and it did on my 5-year anniversary as well.
Absolutely.
So you asked for 3, and like I said, I've got 2 specific and then one that isn't so specific. So the third one is actually something that I'm going through right now. I was nominated for Canada's 40 Under 40.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, so I received the nomination a few months ago, and the applications are all in. And because of COVID and the pandemic, the winners aren't being announced until September now. So I'm not sure if I've won. But, you know, the whole experience of being nominated has been so incredibly humbling.
Yes.
The nomination alone, the reference letters that colleagues were kind enough to write for me, and the experience of putting pen to paper and listing what qualifies me for that nomination has been incredible.
Yes.
I'm really not sure if people usually talk about nominations that they receive, because, you know, you might not win and I might not win.
Yeah.
But to me, the honor is really in the fact that people stood up and said that they thought I deserved this award.
That's amazing.
So win or lose, I'll always have been a nominee for a national award, and that means more to me than well, I'm not going to say than winning itself, because man, that would be awesome. But
amazing.
You know, the nomination itself is fantastic. Yes, fingers crossed. We'll see. So yeah, those are my three things. I think those are the three moments in my career with Gales that those are the big things. Those are the most important things.
Absolutely. So Jessica, an important part of your business is your service. So you have obviously convenience stores and 15 petroleum sites that service municipalities throughout the region, which is quite an accomplishment. So what would you say makes your company different in terms of your service offerings?
Being a local company with a family that is invested in the community allows us to have a network that we can draw upon, and we can learn from them what Niagara is really looking for. So Niagara is one of the most aged populations in Canada. I think we're number 2, second to Vancouver. At least we were at one point. We are also a community that is full of commuters, whether you're going to Buffalo or to Toronto or to Hamilton. And for those two reasons specifically, we have always held strong to a full serve gasoline station. The industry has really been going to self-serve, and we do have those sites as well. But with every renovation that we do and with every convenience store that we put in, I'm very cognizant of where our nearest full serve location is. So every municipality that we service has a full serve site. And that's because our customers want that. Whether you are an individual that has a disability and needs assistance pumping your gas, or a commuter that doesn't want to get dirty, or an elderly individual that just needs that little bit of help. You know, so we've always stuck very close to the full serve. I guess in a nutshell, that's my one example. But being a regional company and being invested in the region allows us to really see what our customers want and how the impact that our actions take. You know, we are able to give back to Niagara, like we're very blessed to be able to give back in large ways, and to see that immediate impact of how the organizations that we support benefit from what we've done. And that's because I think Niagara knows that as a family and as a company, we're really invested in what we're doing. And I think that any company that just honestly, transparently, and authentically can do that to whatever your demographic is, whether it's regional or national or international, if you do it with authenticity, people can see that. People can see the BS, you know, that they're handed sometimes. So.
No, absolutely. So as a woman in such a highly competitive industry and also a male-dominated industry, how have you adapted, and have you had challenges in this industry? And if so, can you give us examples?
Sure, yeah. I've seen this industry change significantly in the last almost 12 years.
Yeah.
When I first came in, I was one of the few women within this industry, and I'm very proud to say that now I'm even going to say that we're almost 50-50. If not, we might even be a little bit over 50-50 actually.
Wow, amazing.
You know, it's been a very significant change. I'm sure it's been a very cognizant change on everyone's part, and that's wonderful. You know, I do think that there is still that I'll call it the old boys club, because for lack of better words, but you know, as a woman, you need to be smarter, you need to be faster, you need to be more nimble, you need to constantly be aware of what is happening. And that's not industry specific, that's around the board.
Yes.
You have to prove that you deserve to be here. Yes. And you do have to be aware that you could be put into some precarious situations at times, I'll say, you know. Yes. I'll never forget my father and I hadn't taken over the company. I think it was probably 2011 or 2012. And we were at a conference in Toronto, and we had gone together. Mm-hmm. And we walked into the room, and you could see, because back then there was still a lot of guys. Remember, I think I was maybe the third woman in the room. And wow. You could see people's faces change. Yeah. And my dad didn't realize it, because I don't think that guys really pay attention to stuff like that. But I saw it, and I realized instantly that they thought I was his girlfriend.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah. You know, and they didn't know who I was. Yeah. So it was very, I kind of pulled him aside and I said, you know, you understand what's happening here. And he didn't, but he got it when I told him. Yeah. So, you know, we made it very clear from that moment in time who I was and why I was there. And, you know, you hand out the business cards and you introduce yourself, and you know, it was interesting to see back then how people would react to a very, very young, I was in my late 20s at the time. So a very young woman coming in, and, you know, they really put you through the ringer. You know, I had to deserve to be there, but luckily with the nurses do that too. You know, they used to say, we eat our young as nurses. You have to prove that you belong there and that you are skilled enough to be there, because you have people's lives on the line. So, you know, you roll with the punches. You make sure that you are as educated as possible. You always listen and learn. And I would say just be gracious and don't talk too quickly. And what I mean by that is wait to make sure you understand what the conversation is completely about before voicing an opinion.
Yes, absolutely. So that leads me to the next question of, you've obviously won some local awards and featured in a couple of publications, which is great. So would you say that this has helped you in your career and helped open some doors for you?
Well, it certainly didn't hurt. You know, I think that it's always very nice to be nominated for an award or to win an award. Yes. It's nice because it means that people are paying attention. Yes. And that you're having an impact on individuals. Yeah. I certainly think that it has helped me. It has helped me to build credibility, certainly. Yeah. It has helped, I'm not gonna lie, it's helped with marketing of myself and with my company. Yeah. Winning an award is never going to hurt you. No. It's certainly not the point of everything. You don't do what I don't do what I'm doing to win awards. That would be foolish. Yeah. But it's certainly a very, very nice thing to always experience.
Yeah, and it just adds additional credibility to what you're already doing. So
yes, yeah.
So the world is changing along with technology and the use of electric cars. So what do you see as the impact this will have on your business and life, and how are you adapting? And what do you do to innovate and maintain and expand your customer base?
So electric vehicles absolutely are growing.
Yes.
At this point, they aren't a large portion of the market, but they're certainly growing, and they're definitely something that I'm keeping my eye on. And how can we service those customers, and how can we get a little piece of that pie? And a large focus of mine over the last few years has been in renovating sites. So I'm very cognizant of our environmental responsibilities. So I have renovated 6 of our sites in the last 3 years, and taken out old tanks and put in new ones. And as we do those renovations, we are also planning on future convenience stores. And when we make that final renovation, I will be looking at putting in charging stations. So I have been looking into this for a good long time. At this point, it's not something that I think I would jump on in the next year or two, but in the next 5 to 10 years, absolutely. It's something that I see us embracing. But there needs to be a larger portion of the market before I make that investment, because it's not a small investment.
No,
every charging station is huge dollars. So we're waiting for the right time for that.
Absolutely.
And that's with anything. You have to keep your thumb on what the industry is doing and how the industry is changing, and what the customer needs are. We also, in addition to having the petroleum sites, we also deliver petroleum to. We do a lot of furnace oil to rural houses, quarries and construction sites, and you name it. If you've got a tank or a backhoe or whatever, we'll go there. Anywhere from the Niagara River between both lakes and up to the Hamilton area, and outside of that for our larger customers. So, that is another way that we are trying to keep our thumb on what our customers' needs are. Again, trying to stay small enough that we are able to stay nimble. But always looking for avenues of expansion.
Yeah, absolutely. So that leads me to the last 2 questions. So what are the 3 key pieces of advice you would give to other entrepreneurs, and what legacy would you like to leave?
3 key pieces of advice. Always be willing to do any job within the company. Never put yourself above any position. I've literally had to shovel sewage before because it had to be done. And at the end of the day, somebody's got to do it. And when everyone else is balking at a job, you have to be the one that shows them that you're willing to do it. Surround yourself with people that are smarter than you. If you're the smartest in the room, you're never going to learn anything, and that's a problem. That's one thing that I think I've done very well. As I said, I've got some fantastic mentors, wonderful peers, and my management team is, I'm very, very proud of my management team. They show me every day why they deserve to be part of my management team, and I always learn something from them. And there's a passage that's special to me, and that's this too shall pass. And I started saying that as a young mother, just with the stages that my children were in, but it's applicable to all areas of my life, of everyone's life. Whether you're flying high over something wonderful that has happened, or down in the dumps because you've got a pandemic going on, these are just moments in time, and one day those moments will be part of your past, and life goes on. So don't waste too much energy and time either fretting over something or basking in something, because eventually it's going to be in the past, and you're going to have the next challenge or wonderful thing that happens.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Um,
And then what legacy?
yes,
I guess, coming up to my 5-year anniversary of owning Gales, like I said, I really took a lot of time to reflect. And I want to leave my piece of the world a better place.
yes,
And I know that might sound cheesy, but it's the only way that I can really put it. I
yes,
want my children and Niagara and everyone that I have touched to be proud that they knew me, and
yes,
to be proud that I was a part of their life and of Niagara. And wherever else I go in life, I just want, I give everything that I do 150%.
yes,
And I want the world to be a better place because I was in it.
yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Jessica, for your time. And if people want to connect with you, what would be the best platforms for them to do so?
I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me easily there.
Yes,
Gales is on Facebook and Twitter, and we're now on Instagram as well.
yes.
And I would love to gain some followers. We're trying to build our social media platforms. And you can always catch me in Niagara, or on our website, gales.ca.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, and hopefully we can have you back in the future.
Thank you so much, Karen. I really appreciate being a part of it.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.